The architecture of the silent sovereign. There is a man in the room who sees everything. He isn't the loudest. He isn't the one posturing in the center of the circle, desperate for laughter, hungry for eyes to land on him like a starving dog begging for scraps. He isn't the one checking his phone every 30 seconds, terrified of the silence, terrified of the disconnect from a digital hive mind that doesn't even know he exists. No, he is the one sitting comfortably in the void. He speaks less, he observes more. And if you look closely, if you really pay attention, you'll notice something unsettling about him. He doesn't need to be there. He doesn't need the group. He doesn't need the validation. And because he doesn't need them, he cannot be controlled by them. Society has a name for this man. They call him a loner. They call him antisocial. They call him introverted, weird, or broken. But the systems of power, the advertisers, the politicians, the manipulators, they have a different name for him: dangerous. They fear him because a man who is comfortable being alone is a man who has mastered his own mind. And a man who has mastered his own mind can no longer be enslaved by the cheap dopamine and artificial fears that society uses to herd the masses like cattle to the slaughter. The biological trap. Most people break when they are left alone. The silence eats them alive. They start to panic. They feel the walls closing in. They reach for the remote, the bottle, the phone, anything to drown out the deafening sound of their own thoughts. But the dangerous man, he walks into the solitude like he's walking into his own throne room. Today, we are going to perform surgery on your perception of reality. We are going to dissect why you have been conditioned to fear being alone, why the system is terrified of your solitude, and how embracing the void turns you from a pawn into a player. This is not about being lonely. Loneliness is a sickness. Solitude is a strategy. Let's start with the lie. The lie you've been fed since kindergarten. Humans are social animals. You've heard it 1,000 times. It's the justification for everything. It's why you're forced into group projects, why open plan offices exist, and why, if you eat lunch alone, people look at you with pity. They tell you that to be alone is to be in pain, that isolation is a punishment. In prisons, solitary confinement is the highest penalty next to death. Why? Because for the average unconditioned mind, being left alone with oneself is torture. The economy of insecurity. But ask yourself, who benefits from you being terrified of solitude? Think about the economy. A man who is happy alone doesn't need much. He doesn't need to buy the newest car to impress neighbors he doesn't like. He doesn't need to spend thousands on clothes to fit into a tribe he doesn't respect. He doesn't need to pay for overpriced drinks at a club just to feel like he exists. The economy relies on your insecurity. It relies on your desperate need to belong. If you are okay with yourself, you are a bad consumer. But it goes deeper than money. It's about control. Group dynamics are the easiest way to manipulate human behavior. It's called herding. If I want to control a sheep, I don't need to put a leash on it. I just need to scare the rest of the flock and steer them in one direction. The individual sheep will follow because it is terrified of being left behind. This is the biological trap. Thousands of years ago, if you were kicked out of the tribe, you died. Your brain has a primal, archaic circuit that screams danger whenever you step away from the crowd. Society hacks this circuit. It keeps you in a state of constant social anxiety. These questions: what will they think of me? Am I wearing the right thing? Why didn't they like my post? Are the bars of your cage. The predator versus the prey. The dangerous man has hacked the hack. He looked at that primal fear and realized it was a ghost. In the modern world, you will not die if you walk away from the tribe. Once you realize that the fear of being alone is a biological glitch, you become invisible to their control mechanisms. Watch a nature documentary. Look at how prey animals behave. Deer, zebras, sardines. They move in tight clusters. They are loud. They are constantly signaling to each other. Their strategy is, don't look at me, look at us. Now look at the predators, the tiger, the eagle, the bear. They hunt alone. They move in silence. They don't need a group to validate their strength. Their strength comes from their autonomy. This is the fundamental difference between the nice guy and the dangerous man. The nice guy is a prey animal. He is terrified of conflict. He modifies his personality to fit the room. He is a chameleon, not out of strategy, but out of fear. The dangerous man is predatory in his focus. Not violent, but focused. When you are alone, you preserve your energy. You aren't leaking power trying to maintain a persona. Think about how much energy you waste every day just performing. The fake smiles, the small talk, the nodding when you don't agree. It is a slow leak in your soul. When you choose to be alone, you plug that leak. You reclaim that energy and you can direct it towards something that actually matters. Your mission, your body, your bank account, your mind. The Audit of the Soul. Machiavelli, the father of dark strategy, wrote his masterpiece, The Prince in Exile. He was stripped of his position, thrown out of the courts, and forced to live on a farm. He was alone, and in that silence, he didn't cry. He didn't beg for forgiveness. He sharpened his mind. He analyzed human nature with a cold, surgical precision that is still studied 500 years later. If he had stayed in the court, distracted by the parties and the politics, he would have been just another forgotten bureaucrat. Solitude made him immortal. Here is the part where we have to be brutal. Most men don't avoid solitude because they are busy. They avoid it because they are cowards. Blaise Pascal said, "All of humanity's problems stem from man's inability to sit quietly in a room alone." Why? Because when the noise stops, the truth starts. When you remove the distractions, no Netflix, no music, no scrolling, no talking, you are left with the only person you can't run from, yourself. And for most, that is a terrifying meeting. In the silence, you hear the thoughts you've been suppressing. You feel the gap between who you are and who you know you should be. The silence acts like a mirror, a high-definition, unforgiving mirror that shows you every scar, every flaw, every insecurity. The average man feels this void opening up and he panics. He reaches for his phone to fill the silence with garbage because the garbage is safer than the truth. But the dangerous man sits in the void. He stares into the abyss until the abyss blinks. He uses the solitude to perform an audit on his soul. Once you have faced your own demons in the dark, nothing in the light can scare you. What is a boss yelling at you compared to the confrontation you've had with your own soul? The information vault. Dark psychology teaches us that information is power. In any interaction, the person speaking is giving away power. The person listening is gathering it. When you are constantly surrounded by people, you are broadcasting your position. You are telling the world what you want, what you fear, and what you plan to do. You are predictable. The man who prefers to be alone is evolved. No one knows his next move. No one knows his leverage points. This makes him terrifying to manipulate. Think about a negotiation. The guy who talks too much loses because he reveals his anxiety. The guy who is comfortable with the pause wins. Solitude trains you to be comfortable with the pause. While the crowd is busy making noise, the loner is reading the room. He sees the strings on the puppets. This is why the most dangerous men are often the quietest. They aren't shy, they are hunting for information. Nikola Tesla, Isaac Newton, these men spent years in isolation. Tesla said, "Originality thrives in seclusion." Society wants you to collaborate because if you are constantly collaborating, you are regressing to the mean. You are averaging out your brilliance with the mediocrity of the group. If you want to be average, go to the mixer. If you want to be dangerous, go to the wilderness. The digital centipede. We live in the age of the hive mind. Social media has connected our brains into a singular, pulsing organism of outrage. It is a digital centipede. If you are plugged in 24/7, you do not have your own thoughts. You have downloaded thoughts. You are outraged because the algorithm told you to be. The man who prefers to be alone pulls the plug. He disconnects. And in that disconnection, he regains his sovereignty. This is why they call the loner crazy, because he doesn't share the collective hallucination. Choosing solitude is an act of rebellion. It is a declaration of war against the attention economy. It is saying, my mind belongs to me, the alchemist of pain. Usually, men are forced into solitude by tragedy, a breakup, a bankruptcy, a betrayal. The world collapses and they find themselves in the rubble alone. There are two paths. The victim, he uses the isolation to rot. He drinks, he feels sorry for himself, and he becomes the lonely old man full of regret. The alchemist. The dangerous man uses the heat of that pain to forge a new self. Solitude acts as a pressure cooker. If you are weak, you explode. If you are strong, you transmute. You take that anger and you channel it into the gym, into your work, into your mind. The most terrifying version of a man is the one who has lost everything and decided not to die. He has nothing left to lose. And a man with nothing to lose is the only man who is truly free. The law of scarcity. This is economics, supply and demand. The first law of value is scarcity. Most men are sand. They are everywhere in every DM, every group chat, constantly available. Their value is zero. The dangerous man understands the inflation of presence. He uses absence to increase respect. By being unavailable, he triggers the anxiety of the tribe. He becomes a prize to be won, not a commodity to be used. This is the strategic utility of solitude. It gives you the ability to walk away from any negotiation. And the man who can walk away is the man who holds all the cards. The architect versus the hierarchy. The social hierarchy of alphas and betas is a prison. Even the alpha is a slave to the tribe, constantly defending his position. The dangerous man is the architect. He doesn't play the game. He exists outside of it. He realizes status is just monopoly money. He stops caring about likes and starts accumulating real currency, competence, assets, and peace. He has a filter for relationships. He isn't a social glutton. Because he enjoys his own company, your company has to be better than his solitude. That is a high bar. He has fewer friends, but those friendships are iron. They are not based on killing time. They are based on building empires. The tax of greatness. Becoming this man comes with a heavy tax. When you start pulling away, the crabs in the bucket will attack you. They will say you've changed. You will have Saturday nights where the silence is deafening. You will feel the sting of FOMO. This is the test. Do you want to be free or do you just want to be comfortable? If you hold the line, the silence stops feeling empty and starts feeling full. You realize that what they call fun is just distraction. On the other side of the void lies sovereignty. Imagine waking up needing nothing from the people you pass. You are the eye of the hurricane. The chaos spins around you, but you remain still. To be dangerous is to be ungovernable. And to be ungovernable, you must be alone. So when this screen goes black, what will you do? Will you click the next video, or will you sit there and finally introduce yourself to the man looking back at you in the reflection? The door is open, step out of line, walk into the dark. I'll see you in the void.